So good morning dear students. As today we are going to discuss the topic neural tissue. So neural tissue is one of the type of tissue that helps in the conduction of messages. Okay. So it helps, the neural tissue helps in the conduction of message. Right? So here we have to understand what message or what do we mean by message. So when we say message means information, right? Message means it's information. Means when we are supposed to say something or when we want to communicate. Suppose if I want to call someone, so that message can be sent to somebody, right? Or if I want something, some list can be given to your parents or to. So message is in fact what it is. It's an information, right? It can be through various means. But in a living body, say in animals or in a living body, what information is passed? What kind of information is passed or for what purpose? Right? For example, if I am going to take class at 12 o'clock, I give the information through WhatsApp messages. Right? So that is information. But here we are talking about the tissue. Right? So in case of the neural tissue or in case of a living organism, what kind of message is being transferred? Here we need to understand that. Okay? As living organism, living organism, what are the characteristic features of living organism? They grow, they can move from one place to another, right? They can run, they can sit, they can reproduce. These are some of the characteristic features of a living organism. And all of these activities, all the activities that are performed by any living organism are well synchronized and well coordinated. For example, what I am supposed to discuss or what I am supposed to talk is in my brain, in my knowledge, and I will explain it accordingly, right? Likewise, suppose if I have to run due to some situation, so I know how to run it, so that will be done by my body, right? Apart from that, the physiological system, including our respiratory system, digestive system, etc., all of these systems are also well synchronized. They are, all of them work together, right? So this is what information we are talking here. It means all the body functions are well coordinated by our central nervous system. That is our nervous system. You may have learned about various systems, respiratory, digestive, excretory, etc., or even reproductive system. Out of that, our nervous system is also a type of system which comprises of organ, tissues and cells. Yes or no? So these nervous system to work, the nervous tissue, which are also known as the neurons. Okay? As tissue, what is the definition of tissue? They are the group of cells which have the similar structure and perform similar function. So this group of cells, which are called the neurons or the neural tissue, helps in passing the messages for the control and coordination of the body system. Right? The body system will be well coordinated with the information that will be transmitted through these neurons. Right? For example, in case of train also, which track, what train is going to come at what time. So all this information are well managed by the system. Maybe the telecommunication system or whatever the system they apply for it, right? If there will be any mistake in the system, then certainly there will be the occurrence of accident or there will be some incident, collision of the train. Yes or no? Likewise, all the functions or all the systems that are in our body are well synchronized through our nervous system, and for this to do, the neural tissue or the neurons help in passing on the messages effectively and in time. Right? For example, say the reflex action. Whenever you touch a hot object, you immediately withdraw your hand. Right? You immediately remove your hands. So maybe you did not know that the thing is hot, but once you know it, you will not touch it again, right? So that removal of the hand immediately, without your conscious will or without having understood that it's hot. So what is that? That is a reflex action. Otherwise, you may get burned. So these are also an example of the system. How the nervous system works. Okay, in control and coordinating our body, and which is achieved through the neural tissue or the neurons or the nerve cells, right? So nerve cells, what they do? The nerve cells help in transmitting messages or in conduction of messages or information, or you can say in the transmission of signal. Now I am using your word, the signal, transmission of signal. So what kind of signal is being transmitted? Transmission of signal. What kind of signal is transmitted here? It is an electrochemical signal. Electrochemical signal. Okay. So transmission of signal, that is electrochemical signal, means these are chemical signal and also an electrical signal is being generated, which is very fast. Okay, so now let us see how a neuron look like, or what is the structure of a neural tissue. So the neurons or the neural tissue are the longest cell or the tissue of the body. So they are long, right? They are long. They have tail-like structure and the nerve endings. These are called nerve endings, right? So, and here are the axons. These are called axons, and these are the dendrites, right? So, a neuron may look like this. Right? So a neural tissue which has a nucleus, of course every cell has a nucleus. So it is the longest cell of a human body or an animal tissue. The longest, it can be as long as 1 meter, right? But the neuron alone cannot pass the messages by itself, right? So first let us understand its structure. It contains the cell body, the axon and the nerve ending. The cell body consists of the dendrites and has the dendritic tips. So these dendritic tips are the site of conduction of the signal, or signal is being received at this point, which are called dendrites. These are called dendrites or the dendritic tips. Okay. So these are called dendrites, or the neurons, which has a dendritic tip, and they help in receiving the signal, right? Apart from that, the cell body contains the nucleus, and this part is called as the axon, right? And the axon is long, which contains the joint here, which are called nodes of Rayleigh here. Okay, these cells are joined together, and the nerve ending. So this nerve ending, they release the signal to the next neuron. So as I mentioned, that neuron, the single neuron, they do not go for sending the signal from the, its receptor cell to its brain. To the brain, as the brain is the main control unit. So the signal is processed and interpreted by the brain. So all the neurons that carries the information will be sent to the brain. So how it is sent? It is sent through a gap. Okay? It is sent through a gap which is called synapse. Okay, a gap which is known as synapse means two neurons, they are not physically associated, means they are not connected physically. There is a gap called synapse where the information is released, or the electrochemical signal is released, right? So first the information is is formed at the receptor cells. So these receptor cells are present in our sense organ. We have different sense organ including the eyes, nose, ears, then tongue, skin, etc. So say for example from the skin, the receptor cell, it has the contact with the environment. So with the help of skin we can understand the temperature. By touching an object or something we can understand the temperature. So we act accordingly. If it's very hot we will not touch it again, right? So how the information? So at the skin we have the receptor cell which sends the signal to the neuron, what neuron we call it? What neuron we call it? What type of neuron it is? Sensory neuron. Okay, it is sensory neuron. Okay, the sensory neuron at what? At receptor site. Receptor cell. So receptor cell will send the signal through the sensory neuron, right? Then sensory neuron will pass the signal to the relay neuron. Then relay neuron will carry it to the brain, and the brain will redirect it. The brain will analyze, it will interpret, and it will send the message to the motor neuron. So this way, the motor neuron will finally come to the effector muscle cells. Effector cells. For example, say for example eye. Okay, do you remember the structure of eye? Where does an image is formed? It is formed on a retina. On the retina, where does the signal is made? Through what? Through the optic nerve, right? Optic nerve will send the signal through the sensory neuron. Suppose you have seen a snake just nearby. What you will do? You will step back. Otherwise you may fall on him, or if you step on the snake, he may bite you. Right? So with your eye you have seen it because you can identify. So what made you to identify that it's a snake? Who made you to identify? Your brain. Because your brain has already the knowledge about the snake, how does it look like, or what consequences you have if you are going to face it, right? So the sensory neuron, as soon as you see it, so as I said, it's very fast in transmitting the signal, and the reason is that because one neuron will not travel from the receptor cell to the brain, right? As I mentioned earlier, one neuron will not cover the entire distance. So they will pass the message from one neuron to other, like sensory neuron to the relay neuron to the brain, and finally the brain will interpret the message. It will get the message, right? And it will be sent to the motor neuron, and it will reach finally to the effector cell. Say the effector cell or the effector muscle, the muscles which is attached on your leg, and you will step back. Suppose to come back as there is a snake ahead, or as there is a snake lying on the road. So you will come aside, or you may take another direction, right? So why it is so fast? Why it is so fast? In fact, it is more fast in case of reflex action. Reflex action you may have studied in class 10. It's even faster. You do not even understand when it happens. For example, a motorbike just crosses you very, speeding near to you. Then what do? You step back. But unknowingly, you do not think that a motorbike will come and then I will step back. But all of a sudden you step back, because otherwise you may get hit. That is there in your subconscious mind. So it happens reflexively, as in case of a hot pan when you touch it. When you touch it unknowingly, you withdraw your hands immediately. Otherwise you get burned. Right? Why? Because in such case, brain is not involved. Sometimes the spinal cord, there is one more thing, spinal cord. So the relay neuron will cross through the spinal cord, no? Sensory neuron, then the spinal cord, then the relay neuron, then the brain, and again from the brain. So it's somewhat long, but in case of reflex action, even it's quicker. It does not reach even to the brain. It will reach later on. Suppose after you remove your hand, you will learn that it's a hot pan. It will certainly go to the brain but little later, but before it reaches the brain, action is already taken. So this is how this neural tissue works, by generating an electrochemical signal. So chemical signal, that is ACH receptor cell or the acetylcholine is that is released through this gap or the synapse, acetylcholine, okay, through the synapse, and finally it will go to the effector cell, the effector muscle cell. In the coming lesson we will learn about the muscle tissue. In my previous class we have discussed only little about muscle tissue, but how muscle contraction, the mechanism of muscle contraction we did not learn till now. So you will learn how muscle contraction happens. So after muscle contraction means the voluntary muscles which moves according to our conscious will, right? So how they move? Because they know I want my hands to move, so I will make it move. So how does it move? The signal that comes from the brain, right? And the effector cells will act accordingly. So whatever the brain interprets and the message is being sent to the motor neuron and finally to the effector muscle cell, and muscle will move. Finally, what action you have to take? You have to move, right? So that movement is achieved through what kind of tissue? Muscle tissue. So here we can understand that all the different systems or different tissues, they are all connected. Maybe it may be your epithelial tissue, your connective tissue, or the muscle tissue, or the neural tissue. But neural tissue and muscle tissue are connected, especially with the voluntary muscles, which acts according to our conscious will. So that is through the neuron or the nervous tissue. So as I said, they are very quick because they themselves, one cell or one tissue alone is not involved. So many neurons are there which are interconnected. So for this, let me give an example. In case of a construction site, you may have seen the workers passing the bricks or passing the material from one worker to the other. One worker himself does not go upstairs or 2-story, 3-story building to just keep 1 or 2 bricks. It's so tiring, at the same time time consuming. Yes or no? One worker will go and then again he will come back. So it's time consuming and it's very tiresome. So what is done? Person by person the brick is passed, and nobody is tired of it because the person is standing in the one same place and they are just passing the material, whatever they need to pass. So similarly, the neuron also do exactly the same. They themselves do not travel the the entire distance up to the brain or from the brain. Rather, they send the message or signal from one neuron to the next neuron. So this is how a neural tissue works. So as I said in chapter 21, in animal physiology, the neural system we are going to learn in detail about it, how the conduction of impulse is generated. Impulse means an impulse is generated at the receptor site and also to the effector muscle cell for its action. Right? So whatever we feel or we sense, suppose through the skin we understand that it's very cold. Certainly I will search for I may search for a sweater or a blanket or something to wear, so to get rid of or to save myself from the cold. So in order to do this, I have to move in search of the things or the material which I require. Right? So this is how they work accordingly. Not only this, but the entire physiological system, they work in a coordination manner. They are well coordinated with one another with the help of the nervous system. In class 10 or this we have already learned what does nervous system do, central nervous system, and also we have one more coordinating system, that is the hormonal system, which is only chemical system of coordination. Means our body's functions are coordinated through chemical substance, that is hormones. But here with the help of neurons, that's why it is known as nervous system. So there are many limitations of the nervous systems which are compensated by the chemical mechanism or by chemical coordination. Okay, so is this clear? Okay, so this is about with